All set? Okay. I apologize for that. Okay, so we're going to be talking about returning to work. And hopefully, what you'll learn by the time we're done talking today is a framework really that you can use and kind of lean on whether I know both of you have already returned to work. So even though you've returned to work, really kind of lean on to maybe identify things that could make the load lighter, make the load easier, and really identify kind of across the board, physical, emotionally, and mental health wise too, some things that can really kind of ease your transition as you're a working mom. And if you don't know me, my name is Angela Fishman. I am, there we go. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I've been doing this a really long time. And I treat virtually specifically to make it easier for women like yourselves to be able to access the care that they need to help going back to work. Because a lot of times we don't necessarily think about ourselves as we're going back to work and how we're functioning. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And I'm joined today by Priya Rednam Waldo. Priya is a licensed perinatal therapist, for those of you who don't know her, and a coach. And she also works very closely with women going through this really important transition in life. And together, we're going to kind of walk you through some of the common pitfalls during this time, and hopefully give you some really helpful and practical things as you're thinking about physical, emotionally, mental health wise, what your needs might be as you're going through this period of life. Okay, so I'm going to be covering the physical side of things because I'm a physical therapist, so that probably makes sense. But both of you here have shared that you're already back at work, and I just wonder if I can ask you a question. Um, if you're comfortable sharing, are there things that you've done or that you did do as you were planning to go back? Are there things that you did to prepare to go back to work?
Um, I can go first. I honestly didn't do much to prepare to go back to work. I think I was just so immersed in maternity leave and wanting to really soak it up, and it almost was I was in a little bit of denial, I think, as it was coming back. And so it's been kind of a difficult transition, for all the obvious reasons. And we're making it work, but that's kind of why I'm tuning in tonight, is just hoping for any kind of tips, and just like hearing, uh I guess, community support kind of, and how other people are tackling this. And I'm going to be putting my baby to sleep in like the next 10 minutes, so I'm going to be radio silence for a little bit in case you don't hear from me, but I'll pop back on.
Okay, no problem, Maria. That's not a problem at all. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I think that's really common. I know I kind of had the same approach when I was kind of planning. I did a lot of things like I wrote out my baby's feeding schedule. I made sure I packed all of his favorite things for when he was going to my sister-in-law's for babysitting. I did all of these things that really helped my baby be successful when I went back to work. But I couldn't even like give myself time to think about what was I going to be like when I went to work. And so yeah, the reason I like kind of asked, just so you can kind of think a little bit of what are the typical things people do, really common not to want to do anything because you're just not looking forward to going back, or you're kind of in denial that it's time to go back. But also, there's a lot of things that we do that are very baby oriented because to me, it's easier to like think about what does the baby need. It's much harder for us sometimes to reflect, well, what are we going to need when we go back? So when we do all the planning for baby, it sets baby up for success, right? Success once we're away at work, but it doesn't necessarily help set us up for success after we return. Did you want to add something, Maria? I just saw that you came off of mute, but that might have been an accident too.
Oh, no, that was an accident.
No
Sorry
problem.
about that.
No, not a problem at all. So, if you think about it, we have a certain amount of energy in a day, right? Before we have babies, we've got the same, we've got this energy. And if we need to do what we need to do at work, we've got a lot of capacity to push that a little bit because we're sleeping fine. We don't have this little person who needs us. We don't have physical things that happen to us during birth. We have a lot more flexibility over here before we have the baby, before we go back to work. And then we come back to work and we've got the same capacity, but now maybe we didn't sleep for a couple of hours the night before because the baby was teething. And maybe I'm having back pain and I'm not sleeping as well. Or maybe when I get back to work, I need to use the bathroom more often than I used to, and it's very distracting for me. So all of a sudden, you have things chipping away at this amount of energy that you have. And if we haven't kind of planned a little bit for some of that, it's really hard to then produce the same amount of work that we were producing over here as we are over here. And we start thinking, well, maybe why can't I do this? Am I failing at what I'm trying to do over here? So if we break it down, what Priya and I were talking about today is kind of really like breaking it down and take small doable steps to kind of unravel some of that puzzle so that you do have more energy and more capacity at the end of the day to do what you need to do for work. So, since I'm kind of covering the physical things here, I want you to think a little bit about like, how do you know when you're physically ready to go back to work? Like, if you think about it, who tells you you're ready to go back? I don't know, Molly or Maria or Priya, if you want to, any of you want to chime in. I know Maria might not be with us right now, but how do you know when you're ready to go back to work?
I was just going to share that I think I'm in a really fortunate and unique position because I work at a place with a wonderful boss, but also that gets it, right? Like wholly gets what a mom really needs. On the other hand, I would say just similar to Maria, like I definitely prepared much more for, and this is my second, much more for my baby as I went back. And I'm still luckily easing in to being full time. But I think for me, I was really surprised at one, like the physical, like, oh, I am not like eating as healthy as I should be, and I'm not able to exercise as much as I can. And also, I think I really have felt like my identity has I haven't found like out who I am with two kiddos at home and trying to be fully present for them but also wanting to be you know good at good at everything I take on both professionally and personally.
Exactly. And I think identity is such a big one, right? That's like, who are we before we had a baby? Before maybe, even if we were pregnant, our identity, it can change so much from when we weren't pregnant to when we are pregnant. And then what happens when we go back to work? What's our identity now? And Priya may be talking about a little bit about that as well. That's such a important piece of how we feel successful in the workplace too. So let's break the physical piece down a little bit. If you think about it, nobody really tells us you're physically ready to go except when you go for your 6 week appointment, right? You go in at 6 weeks, most people. Some people do skip them these days. I have had several people that skip them recently. But in general, your OB and your midwife are going to give you that kind of all clear signal. And the all clear is just the bare minimum. Okay, the wounds are healed, right? Your body is okay, but it doesn't mean that everything's physically ready to go at work. And in fact, that mixed messaging to me, especially like being told you're clear to go back to whatever you want. Then when moms go back to whatever they want to do, including going back to work, they're surprised at some of the blowback physically that what's happening and how they are responding to it. And that can turn into feeling like, I just don't get it. Everyone else is doing well. Why can't I do this? Or your expectations are it's just a mismatch. So, really, it's just kind of appreciating where we are in the healing process. It can take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, sometimes longer, depending on how traumatic the actual birth was. So, giving us space to kind of know that there is this huge physical part that we need to allow us to look at and address because we're not just a mom, we're not just an employee, we're also a person that actually needs some physical attention a lot of times. So, if we look at kind of different strategies, if you think about like, let me move this out of the way. You're cleared, so you should be fine. We just talked about how that's not really the way to think about it. You're cleared to go back at work, but really what you want to ask yourself is, how will my body actually hold up during a full work day? How is my body doing right now? Maybe I'm not even, I know the two of you are back to work, but for anyone else watching this, if I'm not even back to work yet and I'm already struggling with back pain, or I'm having some bladder leakage, or I'm waking at night to empty my bladder, or I'm having hip pain or shoulder pain, well, when I get back to work, that's probably not going to be the time that it's going to just magically disappear. In fact, the stresses of work are going to probably make us even a little bit worse there because of the energy that you use when you do return to work. So we want to look at it as early as we can. If you're still at home, great. If you're already back at work, like Molly, you said you were, we want to like think, okay, how is my body actually holding up or not holding up during the workday? Because those physical symptoms are really important information. Like we don't want to like think that something's wrong with us or you don't have to attach any meaning to it. You can just look at, go, okay, what are the physical symptoms that my body's experiencing? And what information is it imparting to me? If I am getting back pain every time I commute to work, it's nothing I'm doing wrong, but something's happening where, and my body's changed since I had the baby. I need to kind of address what's making me have that back pain because if I can get rid of the pain, I now have more energy to do work, or I have more energy to take care of my baby when I get home, or I have more energy for my partner when I get home. So it's just kind of reframing kind of how we're thinking a little bit about our body. And because we're very strong workers and we're very used to kind of pushing through, we don't want to work around them or just tolerate what's happening. It's really, really common in my practice where women will think, well, I've had a baby, so I probably, it's just probably normal that I leak a little when I cough or sneeze. Or it's just something I can expect to have back pain because, I had a baby. I'm not back to my pre-pregnancy state. So we make a lot of excuses of why our body may not be feeling great. And so we don't think, well, maybe we need to set a little time aside so that we can address some of the things that are going on with our body. So I had a patient actually who was a new mom, back at work for about 3 months, and had a 45-minute commute. And the reason she came to me really was her bladder leakage. She identified, so I love again the word identity because she really identified as an athlete and as a runner. And it was really kind of crushing her that not only could she not run well without leaking, she was leaking when she coughed and sneezed. She was having to get up at night to empty her bladder. And she was going quite frequently, and it was starting to interfere with work. So when she was at work, if she had a 2 hour meeting, she couldn't sit through the meeting well because after about an hour, she felt like she had to go. And the rest of the meeting, she was distracted by these thoughts of what happens if I can't get up and go? Or is this meeting going to end? Like all this energy was going towards her bladder. So when she came to me, she had other things too. She had back pain, but she was very much just working through that and not realizing that all of the stuff kind of works together. She was trying to take care of it herself by making time to work out 3 times a week. She was just putting a pad on and running. She was doing high intensity workouts, and really nothing was working. And she was applying everything she knew, and she just wasn't understanding why her body kind of wasn't coming back around. And another big piece of why she even reached out was she was just embarrassed and frustrated. She was embarrassed because she didn't feel like she was her pre-pregnancy self. She wanted to kind of come back in, have the baby, go back to work, and have people not notice anything different. But that wasn't the reality that was happening. So even though she had back pain, even though she had was waking up at night, the real thing was at work. She was really struggling because she didn't have the ability to kind of hide what was happening with her bladder when she was there. So together we kind of really, the first session, we really reframed everything. Okay, what does bladder leakage really tell you? What's back pain really telling you? Well, something's out of balance. Just because you had a baby does not mean that you're going to leak. It is a signal and a symptom from your body trying to impart information to you saying, here's some things that we might need to address. Things are out of balance right now. Doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. Doesn't mean that you have to deal with it because, again, you've been a mom. It's just information imparting to you, and let's see how we deal with it. Again, we talked a lot. What was really interfering with her the most? And again, it was the things happening in the meetings. So that's what we focused on first. Because you want to take what's the biggest pain point, right? What is really getting you to take action right now and come see me? Well, that's what we're going to work on right now. Your back pain we're going to deal with too, but we're really going to give you some structure and strategy so that you don't have to be distracted 2 hours into your meeting. We also discovered a lot of habits that she was doing at home that was impacting what was giving her trouble at work. So, for instance, since she was freely near a bathroom, all weekend long, she would run into the bathroom every hour. But then she'd go to work and think if she could sit through it, why can't I sit through a 2 hour meeting? Well, that's not going to work because you're peeing every hour at home, right? So it's looking at strategies at home too that can feed into what you want your body to be doing when you're at work. So to do that, we make a very like personalized exercise plan. And I'm not talking here's 20 exercises to do. I'm talking here's a strategy or two I want you to try. Here's 2 exercises I want you to do. And here's one thing I'd like you to avoid. And let's try that this week and see what happens. And it's adjusting, making small adjustments that can fit into a busy mom's workday so that you can see some changes. And for her too, she already had an exercise plan, right? She was already working out 3 days a week. So it's really important for me to work with that. All right, you've already figured out a way to do that. Fantastic. Let's alter a little bit what you're doing during those sessions. So instead of running and just putting a pad on, let's back up. What can we have you do where you're not leaking and build from there? So it's kind of taking what she was already successful with and making the changes so that we could kind of seamlessly fit these changes into her life, yet she could still make the progress that she was looking to make. And the strategies at home were a real eye opener for her because she just didn't make the connection between what she's doing at home and how she shows up at work. So after 8 weeks, so we saw each other for 8 weeks. Usually when we start therapy, it's about once a week, and then we stretch that out. With her, we went to every 2 weeks towards the end. But by 8 weeks, she was confident again. She wasn't leaking when she was coughing or sneezing, whether at work or at home, so that was good. And able to sleep through the night because of her bladder. That didn't mean her baby always slept through the night, but it wasn't her bladder anymore waking her up. So now she's getting better sleep. And remember, we talked about the capacity. So instead of waking twice a night and that really kind of eroding her energy in the morning, that is something that simply wasn't an issue anymore. And she was able to sit through those 2 hour meetings because one of her big goals was, okay, we're going to have her be able to use the bathroom between 2 and 3 hours, which will allow her to do what she needs to do during her workday. Another big thing that starts to fall into Priya's realm is really empowering her. How is she thinking about herself and her identity and feeling empowered to go, okay, wait, I'm not going to accept 2 2 hour meetings back to back anymore because I'm going to be miserable. And I can say that. I can tell them this is not something that's going to work for me. So like her understanding why her body was responding the way it did, and then being able to know it's not just something wrong with her. There's actually things and strategies she can do so she can do all of her work was really empowering for her. So and then simple things like adjusting her workstation so that her back didn't hurt. She had been sitting in this chair that was passed down many generations, is the way she put it. So, working with her boss to get a better chair for her. All of those things helped to leave more energy for her when she was going back to work. And then the big thing, just again, towards her identity was being able to go out and run again and not leak. And that was so important for her, so important for her self image, her self identity, and just to be able to recharge on those days that she did work out. So, really, I'm just kind of encouraging you to think of how your body feels right now. It doesn't have to feel pre-pregnancy. It feels whatever it feels. So just looking at it a little bit right now and going, okay, what is your body trying to tell you? And can I, even when you feel like you can't fit one more thing into your day, can I learn a couple small changes that you can make that might make a huge difference for the kind of the trajectory that your body's on so that you feel better and have that extra energy for what you need to be doing at work. So I'm going to let Priya take it from here because she's going to kind of look at two different realms that are a little bit different from physical, and then in the end, put it all together because our mind and our body and our emotions and our spirit are all very much intertwined. So
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I'm so happy to be presenting with Angela because I do think so often we're kind of siloed in physical health and our mental and emotional health. And the reality is, we are all of those things. And we are all of those things exponentially more, I think, in an enhanced version when we move through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, and certainly in this return to work stage. Let me click on, I'm having, see, my remote is not wanting to work. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I just want to share these statistics because there's a lot of great awareness out there, but I do think when we really sit with how many women struggle, myself included, I struggled with postpartum anxiety as well as post-traumatic stress after the birth of my first child. How many of us struggle? It's such a worthy endeavor, right? To sit with, like, how can we care for this struggle? Because we move mountains to bring our babies into this world. We are deserving of actually feeling joyful, feeling healthy, and really fulfilled in all of our identities as we evolve into them. We don't have to struggle. And so much of the narrative, thankfully, awareness is raised, but a lot of the narrative still tends to be that it's supposed to be a struggle. Is it hard? Absolutely. You have this brand new little person you are in charge of. And certainly as a first-time parent, we wish we had a little guidebook for our child, but we don't. So we are being born into motherhood. They are so new and needing us, but just because it's so transformative doesn't mean that we shouldn't also feel really, really grounded and healthy during this phase. I always think it's important to note that there are lots of risk factors, and some of the ones that are often overlooked, and it's timely that it is Black History Month here, as the mother of a Black child and a woman of color myself, that there are even greater risks when you are a part of a historically marginalized group. And just thinking about in 2026 now, how many of us moms are in the workforce, right? That term of working mom, it's most of us. And therefore, it shouldn't be kind of an aside to care for these things in our life. Okay, I'll just touch briefly on who I am, but I bring all of this to my work. I am the daughter of Indian immigrants, very proud of that. Also was a little bit of a challenge in early motherhood that I am very type A, um, very prone to trying to problem solve things rather than really accepting, like Angela was talking about, like, where's my body at? I'm always trying to fix things. That's where my default is. So it's a strength, but also a challenge that I inherited. I am the wife of an Irishman. I love that we have a blended family. I work with a lot of clients who are multicultural, multiracial. I am a mother of four. I have three of my younger kiddos I've welcomed through birth, and our oldest, who just turned 15, welcomed via adoption in this last year or so. And I'm a licensed therapist. I studied at Johns Hopkins, and I really have a passion towards perinatal mental health, but also from a public health perspective. Like, we don't have to wait till we're struggling. We can engage in primary prevention to really elevate our experience and ultimately be healthy. I have a unique background in that I am a former captain in the U.S. Army. I graduated from West Point, And I've held a lot of leadership positions. So I specialize in working with really high achieving and career driven women. So this return to work phase is really my bread and butter that I love preparing mothers for, ideally before they're returning to work. But for most of us, we don't realize that support is needed until we're already back there. So I'm an entrepreneur and I really try to dedicate all of my efforts towards advocating for women rather than just treating the issues after they happen. I really like to push the needle forward from a preventive standpoint. These are kind of the umbrella of all of the things that I love working with new moms in, and you can see transitioning back to work is one of them. We are kind of inundated with all of these things all at once. And so every mom that I have worked with as a therapist and coach, we really hone in on what's most important to you. But I love that I can be within this niche and every person I work with feels really confident in caring for their needs at any given time. All right, so this mental load and expectations, right? Mental load, I feel like, is very much a buzzword of the time, but it's accurate, right? It is everything that goes on in our minds. My husband often jokes that he's just like, until he has his coffee, it's kind of a blank slate up there. And I say, like, I have a three-ring circus going on up there. And part of it, right, we are by design more hypervigilant mentally as well as physically. We're just attuned to our little one when we bring them home. But part of it is also societal expectations of us, that we as mothers, that we are all things to all people at all times. And certainly the message of self-sacrifice continues, despite it not being great for us, of course, but also not actually helping our babies. So, a strategy that I really love to focus on with moms I work with is how do we create a values and data-based foundation? Again, ideally before we return to work, but it does not matter. If we're already back in the thick of things, this is still such important and worthy work because this will serve us throughout, not just when our babies are newborns or even toddlers, like well beyond that, understanding what your values in motherhood are, right? It's not it's not my values, it's not Angela's values, it's what are your particular values. And we actually can learn this by thinking about what we would teach our baby, right? As we think about returning to work, would we teach our baby when they, let's say, are having a child someday and returning to work, that you should kind of forget eating, that you should put on the back burner, making sure you feel really healthy, even like taking the daily shower? I can't tell you how many moms, really amazing, high-powered moms that I get to work with, still are speed showering, right? Like going through it so massively fast so that they um, don't have to experience a moment of being away when they are away from work, right? This idea that, yeah, we really are just only meant to be of service for others. But instead, if we can take some time and learn what our values are, which feel like they would just naturally come into place, but as we're talking about today, our identity is evolving, it is forming, and it does take some mindful and intentional practice of figuring out what those are. But once we have them, that foundation is going to serve us so well. The data piece also that we need to bring into that is what our babies actually need. We get a million messages about, I was just looking at a baby shower guide or a registry guide today that in a place that I was, and gosh, there wasn't one thing on there for mom. It was all tailored to all the stuff that you need to buy for baby. And the reality is, lots of great research has shown us that our babies need very simple things. They need safety, they need security, which is just really consistently showing up for their needs. Those needs are really quite simple. They are milk, they are a safe place to sleep, diaper changes, right? Really, all of the things that just kind of go to the bottom of the list, like we have to do, there's the utility things. And then most importantly, Those all matter, of course, but having them wrapped in unconditional love is essential as our babies develop. If we're doing those things, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That is enough. So if we're doing those, we really then need to paint the picture of what we need in returning to work around ourselves. If we're tending to those basic needs for baby, our values, we also would tell them, oh, yeah, when you become a parent, you should tend to these for ourselves. Then we need to make that happen. So I love painting the picture with moms who are so used to kind of putting themselves in the back burner or not being in the picture at all. Instead, saying, no, your picture for the life that you want needs to be front and center. And for you to be really healthy and joyful and fulfilled means everyone around you, to include your baby, gets the best of you. And that's personally and professionally. I often will tell my kids, who are now 5, 8, 10, and 15, I go to work because I love it. I find it so fulfilling. And the truth is, so often we are bombarded with this idea of guilt or shame that we have to, if we are away from our children by some sort of choice, that we have to feel bad about it. And I feel like such a better human being when I am engaged in my work, and I get to bring that home to my children. And I'm a true believer that our babies' dreams, what they want for their lives, are born from witnessing us follow our dreams as well. So things to think about. Just the idea of where do these ideas of these shoulds come from? What are we receiving messages about, like how we're supposed to feel, what our values are supposed to be, what returning to work is supposed to look like? I remember early on, someone saying, "Well, of course you're going to be so emotional and you're going to be crying on the way to work." And that was not my experience. Did I miss my baby? Sure. But I was actually really excited to engage my professional part of my identity. So just to really question, like, where do we get these messages from? Are they from friends and family, even if they're well-intentioned? Are they from books, apps, social media? We get a deluge of information. And how much are we filtering out that information, to make sure it really aligns with our values? What does it mean for us to refuse to hold the mental load? So, a lot of the mental load, if we really break it down, and I love doing this with clients, a lot of it comes from these shoulds, and a lot of it, as Angela was talking about before, is so tailored to baby, and that feels like what we're supposed to be doing. But what if we, instead of juggling glass balls and feeling like at any given minute that mental load is going to shatter to the ground, what if we really sit with which one of those balls actually doesn't serve us, our baby? Which one of those can we put down? Which ones aren't actually glass, which are actually rubber, that if we drop one from time to time, no big deal? Being really clear on what it means to say no to the mental load. The default, our society really continues to benefit from moms holding all of the mental load, but we can choose to say, no, that's not for me. And it's because I'm an ambitious woman professionally, I'm returning to work, and I am a loving and an amazing mother. I can do both. And then what does it mean to do that unapologetically without overwhelm? When I tell moms, like, yes, mom guilt is a real feeling that can come up, but it actually isn't a typical, or typical is not the right word. It isn't a necessary part of the motherhood journey. We don't have to feel it. And through really practicing, like building that foundation, we can be free from it. Okay, so I love sharing client stories. I think it just really helps to solidify, like, what does this look like? And knowing that we're not alone. So many of us struggle with this, myself included. So I recently have worked with a high profile tech company executive. She, very confident woman, understood um, the weight of responsibility in general. She did have a history, right, that put her at risk for perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. She would be in high stress, high demand, and then go to a burnout and kind of retreat and do it all over again. She had a first generation American husband, so different cultural background, really thinking about that piece of her identity and her baby's identity. She felt a lot of pressure to maintain perfection, which can happen for any of us, right? Our role as mom is so precious to us. We want to be perfect at it. Of course, we know that logically doesn't exist, but that doesn't stop any of us, to include this client, from trying. She was a planner, which really, in some ways, worked well for her before baby arrived. So she sought support at 28 weeks, but she noticed that she was already feeling both the professional overload, but also the mental load of like, what is home going to look like when baby arrives? So, what do we do together? As a coach in particular, I get to help moms create their motherhood playbook. What do they need at this time in their life? So, we created a really clear vision, honoring those old responsibilities that she would be coming back to when she returned to work, but also all of the new ones. And as was beautifully put, we only have so much energy in the day. So if we, before bringing home baby, used all of that energy towards our work, it is impossible. And it's not a failing, but it is impossible to bring that same energy after we're having a baby. We have to mindfully divide up that energy in a new way. And it does not have to mean that anything important to us, anything that we're driven towards, has to be neglected. So we created that vision together, painted the picture together. It was really important. Her in-laws lived close by, so it was really important that they were a part of the village, but it was an invitation to the boundaries. And I love working to create those scripts with clients about how do we accept support, but also feel really empowered to do it on our terms. We worked with her spouse, her husband, to paint the picture together. So often, I'm sure many of the moms here can relate, the burden ends up being on mom to figure out the mental load, to create the picture and then just tell their spouse what's going to happen. And we're really so much better. Our babies are so much better. Our families are so much better if we can do it in true partnership. We did talk about those risk factors as well as coping strategies for postpartum anxiety. Since she was coming to me pregnant, we had a lot of opportunity to care for those risk factors before baby arrived. And then we created that self-care plan. We talk about self-care a lot in the go get the massage, take a long bath, these kind of one-offs. But I love really creating customized plans based off of what's important to mom, what makes them feel good, whether it's working out, whether it's skincare, all of these important factors that it's a real mom moment. My little one. So I love to create that. So what were the results? I had a really empowered mom rather than coming into this new phase of life from a deficit. Mom felt really like she knew who her village was. They were invited there and they were there for her. Um, really connected to her partner in a new way. It wasn't just surprise, we have a baby, let's figure it out. Which in fairness happened to me. So I have no judgment at all for that. But she got so much of my own experience, I make meaning of it to say, like, gosh, I get to pay forward to the clients I work with. And she felt really deeply connected to her partner well before even baby arrived. She was really confident about making decisions. We don't have to have it all figured out. Certainly in the return to workspace, there's a huge adjustment there for how baby feeds, sleeps, all of the good things, nutrition for ourselves, drinking water, exercise, but we do want to feel confident, like, oh, I think I can figure this out and I'm not alone in figuring it out. And then transition back to work was great because even as a leader, she was able to still have the respect of her position, feel like she was an enhanced version of herself, but we really got rid of that whole idea of perfectionism. It didn't really serve her or her team. And then we ended up working together for a good year post-birth for check-ins. I dive deep with my coaching clients where we do longer sessions for a shorter period of time, but then I stay in their corner in their village throughout that first year as much as they need me. Okay, so then the last area I want to talk about is the support and communication. I probably said it 3 times already in this talk, but we are not meant to do this alone. Maybe I always say it to myself in my head too, just as a reminder, like we are supposed to be surrounded by meaningful layers of support and the emphasis on meaningful. And that's where the communication piece comes in. Lots of women, amazing women who have the ability to have both professional and personable individuals in their village, they're still not sure how to communicate with them to ensure that support is actually effective for them. As we return to work, I think it's important to know there's infinite right ways to build your village. And how do we build it again, going back to the previous information, based off of our own values, what we need, what our profession demands. I happen to be in a profession that I can create my own schedule. Not everybody is in that space. So how do we make sure that our village is actually meeting our needs? I already touched on not needing to or not meant to navigate the motherhood alone, but also being really selective, right? Just having a group of moms that are around us, or just having a therapist or a coach in our corner, if they're not actually a match for the ambitious motherhood vision that we have, it's not going to work. Villages to me really need to be invite only, which can be a little bit of a controversial topic, right? Especially with well-meaning in-laws or parents. But what I mean invite only, it doesn't mean that you have to restrict who's a part of your life at all, but in terms of who is your actual support system, they've got to be people that really are on board with your vision, that picture that we painted together. And in an ambitious motherhood, if you are returning to work, if you are excited about your career as well as excited about your baby, these aren't luxuries, right? To have a really supportive village, they're really vital. They should feel luxurious. We are supposed to be in a season of receiving, but they are essential. They're not extras. As moms, we really do have to decide our own definition of success. So many of the clients I work with, they are really deciding what support they need, how to navigate returning to work based off of somebody else's idea of success. Maybe it's their boss's idea of success, maybe it's their partner, maybe it's their sister, all of these people in their lives, and they've lost sight of their own idea of success. And really, again, there are infinite right ways to be an incredible mom and a successful professional. It's really just having the space to figure out what your right way is. So, some things to think about, questions to ask yourself. Does my village care about me or only my baby? That comes up a lot where moms are returning to work, have written out here's when the feedings are, here when the naps are, and they feel like they come home. Let's say they have either a nanny or a mother-in-law or daycare, and that all of that guidance has been thrown out the window. And to me, if someone is not following your guidance as best as they can, as a mom, we do have to really wonder, do they just love my baby or do they really love and want to support me? And it is hard to have those conversations, but it's absolutely possible to talk with people who say they want to support us in a way that builds bridges and helps them to realize they really do need to focus on what's supportive of you. Because if we're anxious at work, thinking about, gosh, I don't know, they might not be following my directions, that's not helpful for us at all. Also, what to think about is like, what if I created my village basing on having what I want? I don't know about you, I'm really tired of the having it all conversation. Again, it is based off of somebody else, some like older guy who I think just came up with the phrase. I can't imagine we women came up with it. But some guys like, oh yeah, women can't have it all because they had some spouse at home that was taking care of baby. We don't have to have it all. We can have exactly what we want. Maybe that includes all of the things that we traditionally think about in this having it all conversation. Maybe not. We don't have to be present for every single thing our baby does. We also don't have to attend every single meeting. We can decide what we want for our life and have great success in doing so. And then finally, thinking about what have I been told about wanting support? Not just needing support, although it is vital, right? If we are going to be career driven in motherhood, but about wanting support. An example of something that I worked with a client on is, what does it mean to hire out laundry, hire out grocery shopping? What does that mean? Even if you could, in theory, you and your partner do that, what if you just got that free time back? What if you got that energy that is finite back? And when we can really sit with and deconstruct where these messages come from and recognize we can change how we view them for ourselves and make decisions about our village based off of that, it's incredibly liberating and empowering. So, another client that I worked with, a really high visibility executive leader, she was used to being commanding rooms, being right out in front, never letting them see her sweat, I remember as a phrase she said. But she had a history of pregnancy loss. She conceived via IVF. She kept this amazingly um, private in throughout several cycles of IVF, which if any of you have either been through fertility treatment or know somebody who has, it is an incredible stressor, right? All of the, certainly the physical piece, but also the mental and emotional piece. But she felt it was really important to hold that all in. First time mom, really struggling to find that village. And when we hold in our grief, when we hold in the challenges we experience, that sits heavy on us and puts a lot of pressure when we are certainly bringing home baby, but also when we're returning to work. So it was a very complex journey that she felt alone in. Um, she was really in a male-dominated space and felt a lot of guilt for needing help, needing accommodations, needing something different than what her male counterparts were needing. So, what we worked on together, first of all, we just broke it down to understanding that mind, body, spirit connection, how it impacts her journey, that she is not um, somehow less than. She is having a very typical response to an atypical life experience, right? To be in this high visibility role, having so much pressure, and then needing to go through her fertility journey. We created a very step-by-step mental wellness plan that she could use at work. It was a part of a greater kind of 1, 2, 3 step up return to work plan. She had the luxury as a leader of kind of creating her own adventure once we pulled apart this idea that she had to do exactly what her male counterparts were doing. We really went through that time and priority audit. I would add in maybe energy, and we created a customized playbook for her. I do that with all my clients so they have a reference that is created, and a touch point in those moments that we all have of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. We can ground to our playbook. And then we were able to create that village with specific communication scripts, especially for those emotionally charged relationships in her life. And what did she come away with? I'm really proud that she ended up feeling so empowered to talk about her needs, her value in the workplace at home. She was still able to maintain a privacy that was important to her, but she had the language to say, these are the rhythms that my body and mind need in this phase of life, and here's how we're going to make adjustments based off of that. Very committed to being ambitious still. Excited about that C-suite role as an executive, and understood through our conversations how that grief from and the anxiety that she experienced in conceiving and through pregnancy, how that could come up for her, but also what life currently is, right? What is rather than what could have been, and also what could be, right? Our anxiety lives in the future and the past. Typically, it doesn't live as much in the present. So she felt really well and confident in raising her child with her village. And then, of course, I remain a part of her village to this day. So a couple ways that I support mothers through coaching. I'll highlight, since I know we have some local people, Healing Home Counseling Group that I founded in 2021 and continue to lead. We are a perinatal mental health practice that and youth mental health practice. And we are there for those moms that really do feel like they're kind of at that bottom of the hole and are trying to get their feet back under them on solid ground. As a coach, I really provide a concierge level of support. So I either deep dive with moms in kind of a half day experience where we talk through one critical topic. Alternatively, I love working with clients and the custom transition plan where we do a deep dive over usually a few months and we get to create a plan based off of multiple topics. And I really get to be there for even if I'm not responding right away for those 2 a.m. texts of, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm losing it. Can you remind me of those coping strategies? I get to be there for that. So I just encourage you to reach out if you do need support, even if I'm not the right fit. I always love giving my time and energy to talking to new moms, figuring out, gosh, are we the right fit? And if we're not, then I will find that right fit for you. It's really, really a part of my values set to make sure that every mom is supported on their journey of parenthood. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Angela to wrap us up. Angela, I think you're on mute still.
There. Okay. Gosh, it's weird stuff. I've done this before, honestly, without problems. Um, like Priya was saying, if you ever want to reach out for support and make either one of us part of your village, we are happy to do that. I treat virtually. I have only licensed in 5 states, though, and I know we have a couple people from Michigan, and unfortunately, Michigan is not one of the states that I'm licensed in, but I'm licensed in Illinois. That's where I'm physically located. California, Colorado, New Hampshire, and Florida. But even if you are not in one of those states, if you would like some guidance, you can follow the QR code on the screen, and I'm happy to do a free consultation and help point you in the right direction and point you towards the resources that might be helpful. So don't let that stop you from reaching out. I'm always happy to point people in the right direction. So, does anybody have any questions or any situations? I know when we first started, we were talking about some specific situations. Does anyone want to come off mute and just talk about their own situation or ask Priya or myself questions about anything?
Hi, I'll jump in. First of all, thank you both. That was so awesome. Really nice to kind of hear about like actual experiences that you've both had with your clients too. Um, I first of all want to ask if there's any way we could get these slides. I know that you recorded it or the recording or whatever. But there, as I had said, times where I was just dealing with my baby and I wasn't able to see what was on the screen. So that would be something I'd be interested in.
Mhm.
Um, but kind of quickly to just touch on my own situation, which I don't think is incredibly unique, but I guess it is slightly different than kind of what you guys were talking about. And I'm more so struggling with the identity aspects right now, like kind of in Priya's wheelhouse. I'm a lawyer and I'm very proud of my career, and it's something that, I want to keep developing over a very long time. My end goal is to end up being a judge eventually. But what I'm struggling with right now is feeling like I just wish that I could kind of put a pause on the career and do the motherly stuff. I know that you work with people in finding that balance. I'm having a hard time even kind of wrapping my head around there being a balance. And like, for example, I'm so envious of other countries when you hear that they have year-long maternity leave. That sounds like something where I wish I could almost just tune out for a period of time, but be able to come back to my career. Um, and I feel like there's just really limited options. I feel if I was to step away, then I would be kind of destroying everything that I've worked towards, and I don't know how I would be able to come back. But I am having a really hard time feeling that same fulfillment in my work that I had felt prior to having my baby. Um, and, just trying to do it all. So if there's anything either of you could say on that.
I'll jump in there. First, thank you so much for sharing. And I love, yeah, I love knowing that piece of it because it's unique, but not as unique as you'd think. So many of us just need to catch our breath, right? Catch our breath and enjoy our baby. And unfortunately, right, how our society is set up now, it can feel very all or nothing. Like if I take a pause, that I will, yeah, really be on a completely different trajectory. And there's kind of no hope to be back on the one that you are hoping for. I love that you have big dreams. I am currently coaching a corporate attorney who's kind of in that same space of the demands continue to come, and it feels like there will be no space for how she wants to move through motherhood, as well as continue pursuing her career. And while and Angela too, right? Like we can't change society big picture, but what I really love doing is creating something other than the all or nothing way of thinking, right? How can we create, even if society isn't giving it to us, even if our firm or wherever we are in life is not giving that to us, like how can we create space to have more energy dedicated towards baby without completely stepping away? Um,
Mm-hmm.
or how do we, if we choose to step away, how do we set ourselves up for success when we want to return? I'd love if you want to reach out to me, I'd love to spend some time just talking through that with you, because you're so right. And I've gone through it myself of having to decide like how am I going to have the experience with this little new person? And of course, you're a new person too, right? Like how am I going to give myself that space even if it's not given to me? And there are ways
Mm-hmm.
to advocate for a career and a really an ambitious motherhood that is possible. Is it going to look different than kind of the standard trajectory? Sure, but it doesn't have to include completely kind of throwing away that ambition. Yeah, but I empathize with you, and you are absolutely not alone in that. There are ways though to navigate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I would love to reach out and talk a
Yeah,
little bit
please
more.
do. I love sometimes it just takes that like connection, right? Like to be able to sit down with someone and talk through what your particular journey, what you want that to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or anything else you guys would like to discuss? Well, if you change your mind at any point, you'll have the, Maria, I know you asked for it. We will send out the recording. I'm going to cut off all my struggling trying to get all the tech to work. So it'll be a little shorter, but you'll get a link to be able to look back at anything you may have missed or anything you wanted to listen to. And our contact information is on there as well. So you'll be able to reach out to either myself or Priya if you need any guidance. And we just want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of, we know, your busy day to pop in with us and talk about some of these really difficult and struggling issues sometimes. And we hope that it was you took away at least a couple things that might be helpful. And we congratulate you on doing really the hardest job in the world is trying to be the mother that you are and still be present in the workplace in the way that you'd like to. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, and
Thank
wishing
you.
your
Thank
baby
you, Priya. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
You're very welcome. Have a great evening, everybody.
good night.
You too. Thanks. Bye.